Welcome, everyone. I was about to say good morning, but good afternoon. It's great to see everyone and to be able to hear firsthand from folks that are hosting refugees and people that have come into our community as refugees. So I want to turn it over to Brad, and then we'll have a number of speakers after that as well.
I'm going to give you a quick how this came to be, and then I'm going to have Saeed go ahead and tell his story because we don't have much time. But long story, we had a rental that my son was moving out of back into our house. He mentioned, why don't we look into some other Afghan refugees? That was right at the time when it was in the news. That was on Friday at about 4 o'clock. And by Saturday afternoon, Saeed and his wife and 2 children moved into the house, and they're still there. And so that's kind of my only involvement with it. I knew somebody who from our church at Cross Point that had done some stuff with Afghan refugees. I called her, got Sarah, the gal that's in charge of that. It just happened so fast. It's like a miracle. So I want Saeed to tell you more about, just a quick overview, and then we want to have a lot of time for questions because I know that's really more important. You want to go on to the other one, the other speakers, so that
I think if we can be flexible. Deborah, do you want to introduce our other presenters?
Yes, indeed. Hello, friends. I'm Deborah Brady, and last summer we completed a remodel in our home, which created a 1-bedroom apartment in our lower level. And so during the fall, I contacted the International Rescue Committee to let them know that this could be available for refugee resettlement housing. And they considered people, and it was such a blessing that they matched me up with Parveen Husseini, who is here with us today. She is in the pink headscarf, and her younger sister-in-law is Nikbat Ibrahimi. And joining them is Lamar Nurzai, and he is a volunteer with the Islamic Center. And I met him on the first day they moved in. He brought over hot meals for everyone and has been very helpful. And he is also a refugee from the early 80s, and so has become very fluent in English, and he's a great help to all of us. So I'm glad to welcome them. So Parveen, I think as I texted you, we communicate through text, and they put my text into Google Translate. And that's how we mostly communicate. She has a 12-year-old daughter who's now named Sahar, who's registered at Roosevelt Junior High. So these 3 females came by themselves and got separated from Parveen's husband and her 2 little girls who are 7 and 9. They were left behind in Afghanistan. Parveen, the people are interested to know your experience. Also you, Nikbat, and tell us what you want about yourself and your experience and what you're observing about the Afghan community and how we can be helpful. So Lamar, you can translate that for them.
پروین و نکبت میگه که شما چقدر خوش هستین از اینکه به اینجا آمدین و افغانایی که براتون کمک میکنن و خود دبرا کسایی که کمکتون میکنن از طرف اینجا خوش هستین، چقدر راضی هستین و چی؟
ما بسیار خوش هستیم کسایی که برای ما کمک میکنن، زیاد تشکر میکنیم ازش.
They said they are very happy to be here, and especially for Deborah, they gave them the place, a nice place to live, and they were a little bit bored in the hotel for like chand hotel? 1 month in the hotel in 1 room, and they are very happy here, but they worry about the rest of the family that they are in Afghanistan, her husband and the 2 children, daughter, and Nikbat worry about her family. Oftenly, it's a way to maybe bring them here too, or something to be comfortable and enjoy the life.
I'll also mention that Parveen is about to give birth to a baby boy in about 2 weeks, and his name will be Youssef.
Yeah. I just told her this morning that the doctor suggested she has to rest a lot, and she tried to cook something or make a tea or something for me. I said, no, I already drink tea and just relax and rest because the baby that come in 2 weeks, we don't want to be early, but she's listening to me. I'm like, they call me uncle, and they are part of my family.
What questions would you like to ask of them? I'll toss one out in case you know. I am trying to set up a session with some people at the International Rescue Committee about how to be an advocate for them, moving along the process to get permanent residency, but also how to sponsor immigration for her husband and children. And that's a tricky thing. And I thought the IRC was working on that, but they're not, but they coach us how to do it. I have no idea. So if you guys know that, we want to help.
I'm curious what's been most challenging in everything that you've experienced. What's been most difficult?
Right. Lamar, did you hear the question? Ask
Yeah.
what's been most challenging for them?
I think lady Neriman Khatak or something take her to the doctor the other day and call some office to sponsor or do the paperwork and stuff for her husband and the two daughters. They said if they work on it, then they might be here like in 1 year or something after they get the green card. I don't know how fast they get the green card.
Anna, your question in the chat room is no. We don't have anyone working with them on immigration. That's the next step. Now that they're housed and settled and have medical care and the daughter is in school and they're enrolled in ESL classes, the next step is this whole immigration. And yeah.
Pastor Deborah, I have a friend in Sacramento who was trained in all of this. I'll check with Steve and Laura and see if they might be able to help.
Okay.
This kind of interesting because maybe it'd be good to hear from Saeed because he's very much on a different end of the spectrum, being one who was a translator for the Air Force and connected, and how his path has been much straighter to get there because he can communicate and he's helping other Afghan refugees with that. So you want to have him kind of give his story and then go ahead, Saeed.
My name is Syed Sharaf Amiri, and recently got to United States. I was a former translator with the U.S. Air Force back in Kabul with Resolute Support Mission, one of the mission with ISAF forces. And on August 21st, I arrived to United States. I never joined to Safe Havens, the U.S. government program. I directly come to one of the relatives' house, which was my in-laws, to Modesto, and from that I ended up meeting with Brad Hahn, and he kind of did me a big favor, put me in his house. Actually, he helped me for a couple of months with no rent, nothing at all until 2020. So I got here with no documents. I left everything behind, my house, my properties, my bank account, all I was not able to access. When I got here, because I haven't participated in the safe haven from U.S. government, it took longer to get all my paperwork done, from my social security cards to work authorization cards and all of stuff. But I personally start working on all my documentation. I applied for all of my documentation, starting from social security, work authorization, and recently I also applied for my green card, which is which I have done my biometrics and everything. And right now I'm waiting for the final decision. So the story how we got out after 3 days that Kabul fell to the Taliban. It took us a few days to get into the airport because the situation down there was extremely dangerous, and we had the Taliban's at the gates, and also we had the other people that they would push people back not to enter to the Kabul airport because there was a huge operation by ISAF and US military was going on to evacuate the US troop and other allies. But I end up into the airport with the help of the badge and my work I perform with the US government, and now I'm here. And if there is any questions regarding any documents, or if somebody needs any information regarding those, because I was part of, I did mostly my documentation, I would be glad to share my experience and if I can be a help to somebody else.
Okay.
And just as a side note, there's a position that they're opening up at the county that he's going to apply for to do just that, so that he can help folks that don't speak English and, you know, don't have the skills that he has. He worked with Americans for years, so he kind of gets the whole culture and all that stuff. So it's really be an opportunity, I think, to help a lot of folks that don't have those resources.
I know from speaking with Nick Butt, she is taking ESL online through Learning Quest. She very much wants to get a job, and so needs to get a little bit more fluency in English first. And I would say my own experience as part of the support team is that Modesto City Schools did an excellent job with their ESL center at helping Sahar finish the process to get enrolled, and has a lot of good support things. The healthcare system, pretty good at this. There's some cultural issues around wanting female doctors and nurses only, and that not necessarily being provided, and not always having translation available and things like that, that I'm trying to advocate for through Golden Valley. But Padavine is a very good advocate for herself as well. So I appreciate that. So I know Nick Bott is also working with the DMV to learn to drive. So this is a new adventure for her.
My question for anyone who wants to answer it is twofold. I put it into the chat. Have any of you experienced tension here in terms of your faith or ethnicity as recent arrivals in the community? And secondly, are there ways that we as faith leaders can be supportive beyond the need for housing and the legal support that you mentioned? What can we do?
I think, sir, I think for me, which I was working more than 4 years with U.S. Air Force, there's a huge difference, cultural difference in United States according to Afghanistan. Now, if we put this into a context that Afghans get here with no language skill, they have no idea about what is the U.S. culture, and they step in a community that nobody understands their language, their values. It's very hard, and sometimes it's not sometimes, mostly very stressful for them because they don't have people to share their loneliness time with them. Like, they are away from the family, they don't have people to talk with or something like that. The good thing that they have is right now is the peace, security, shelter, And there's a big hope, even more than that, that sometimes these folks can help their people that they left behind in Afghanistan. So I think this is a advice from me to other Afghan folks that recently got out. It was a chance that God gave us to have a better life. So if we don't lose something, we can get something else. And I think people of Afghanistan, which are in Modesto community, I think if the leaders can help them to put them in programs or to connect them with programs that they will be more involved in activities and people around them, that way I think will reduce their stress, and because mostly they will be involved in activities and they will not be on their own. That way they will learn the culture fast, and also that help to reduce their stress and depression.
Thank you. Lamar, do you want to repeat part of that question for the other speakers about any tensions you've experienced?
Actually, I'm working for a lot of Afghan refugees that are in Modesto and Turlock since almost 4 months. But Nekbat and Parveen and Sarah, they are very lucky that they are in a good hand like Deborah. We appreciate Deborah that gave them good place, nice, and helped them all the time, even with the transportation or everything. If they have any problem, she called me to translate, or my sister-in-law, Neri. But so far, they are very happy with Sahara's school, and Nekbak goes to the ESL classes. And Parveen is resting since she is pregnant, and in a couple of weeks, she has the baby. And Deborah already, I think, make ready everything for the baby too. And I think everything is fine for them. And I am, anytime they want, I'm gonna help them and come as a translator or to ride and everything. They are the lucky people that they are with Deborah.
We definitely have time for a question or two. Who has one?
I have a question if it's the right place. Like other Afghan people, my parents are still in Afghanistan. And I want to know if there is any ways that we or the community can help us to, not only my family, there are other families that they have parents, sisters, wife, or husbands left behind in Afghanistan, that we can help on a program, like put them in a system that soon or later we expect to see them in United States with the people that they are here.
I see in the chat that someone's asking about if World Relief helps with this. Does anyone have other ideas in terms of Saeed's question?
I wonder if, I know that the district lines have changed, but I wonder if Josh Harder's office might be of assistance, or some other congressional help for this particular area.
Someone in my church called his office and he gave links to the immigration service of which to go. So that just happened recently. So it's not doing anything directly.
And with all due respect to Mr. Josh, my experience, I personally went to his office and I spoke to his employees, and I have never heard from them in 4 months. So I think that would be a good option. But what I hear from those Afghans that they are on a system that recently got out, that and they are on Qatar, if we can find a connection into Department of Homeland Security, they are developing a list of those who left behind. And if we can get to the right people in the Department of Homeland Security, and we give those folks name that they are left there, like for these two sisters, their family member, their husbands left behind. If we can find some connection to the Department of Homeland Security, they have the lists that sooner or later, if you're on that list, you will be in the United States. So if we can find our connection to that level, I think that might help everybody.
Syed, I have a question for you. Especially Nikbat has been very concerned about the family in Afghanistan because of the economic collapse that they are experiencing and wanted to find a way to send money there. And one of the young men I met who's translating for the school district told me he uses the app MoneyGram. So I'm trying to figure that out. And so he told me that you just put in the person's name and send the money, and then they go to the bank and then they can receive it. And that seems kind of sketchy to me. Like, so I'm like, do you send money to your family there? And if so, what are the means that you do to make sure they get it?
That's one of the challenges, because once I send to my family, because I have a four number one family members that they need financial support. Sometimes the Western Union is up and sometimes it's down. And if you send money, it will take a week or maybe less than or more than that, that if they work and they can give out the money. So the only means that I trust and I use is Western Union.
Okay.
And in order to use Western Union, if our sisters want to send money, they need to have their work authorization, social security card, and I think these two is enough to send money. So if they have this, they can easily send money to their folks. They should have their Taskara number or their passports information in order to send money to them. And I'm sure there are lots of Western Union in Modesto and Turlock, and the guy behind them then easily can help giving them transport to those areas.
Okay.
Let's answer Mike's question.
Yes.
Do you want to?
Yes, Saeed, I am Lamar Nurzai, helping all the Afghans, like I said, in Modesto. Recently, a couple of days ago, I think we didn't mention it to Deborah. I already sent some money from NECPAC side. I have a Western Union account, and she gave me some money donate. I sent it to her family, and they got it already 2 days ago.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No problem.
So let's squeeze in one more question. Mike wrote, are our speakers somehow able to connect with others from their country who are currently living here? Where there be others who have walked through this process who could give them advice or counsel? In other words, how are different refugees able to connect with each other, those who've been here for longer and those who are just arriving?
Adivin, and Nikbat, how have you met other Afghan people?
باش ما برش اگه اجازهتان باش ترجمه کنم اول.
بفرمایید.
میگه دیگه افغانا را چی رقم ملاقات کردی و چی رقم برات معلوم شده این ملاقات هایتان با افغانای دیگه که در اینجا هستن؟
شماره ما را از طریق شماره یک دیگه خود داره بود ما را اینجا پیدا کردیم.
نه میگه دیگه افغانا را غیر از ما و نریمان دیگه کسی دیگر هم شما اینجا میبینین و دیدین و چطور افغانای دیگر را چطور پیدا کردین چطور یافتین؟
این افغانا رو هم زیاد نمیشناسیم. من روزای که کار میشناسیم میگن نریمانه.
They were in the hotel for a month and then they moved to Deborah. They know I helped them with the hotel, and my sister-in-law she helped them here, and I come all the time here to help them. Otherwise, they didn't know other Afghans.
How can we? What is the appropriate way I would love for someone to help me translate, to say thank you to our presenters for their time and for so welcome to our community. But we also have it translated how much we appreciate them being with us today.
You're welcome. And at the end, I have something to, if it can be useful. I've been to World Relief Program for studying English, and also been to IRC program since I had a language institute in Afghanistan, and I am graduated from Kabul University with a bachelor degree in English language literature. I found these two system of teaching English not very useful for those who start learning English as a beginners. So if in the future this community try to open a center, or if they facilitate a place that I can voluntarily teach those Afghan on the very beginning level, in order to enable them to read, write, speak, I'm glad to help. Mr. Brad has my contact information, and if there were people willing to study English from the beginning to advanced level, I would like to have them physical classes or Zoom classes, but start from a beginning to the advanced level.
That's good.
You've given us a lot to think about.
Sorry, Robbie. I try to open a couple ESL classes either online or Zoom in a couple of hotels in Turlock Inn and Comfort Suite, because they are bored at the rooms, even women's and men's. We try to open classes, and I ask to get some laptops or some books we open the classes. And if we need some assistance and stuff for Saeed, I'm gonna be in contact. I'm gonna contact you, and then we work together.
Thank you so much. You're welcome to stay, but I understand you have other things you may wish to do today. We're gonna ask Michael to share for a minute or two about his experiences hosting a Druze family, and then we'll have a chance to talk about some of what we've heard. Thank you so much. Michael.
I'm Michael Scheifelbein. I'm the senior pastor at College Avenue United Church of Christ, and we've been hosting a Syrian family since October 17th, the Jamul family. They are of the Druze religion, and so their status is refugees. They came through World Relief, and so we were working with World Relief in order to find a place for them. And so one thing that's happened in our congregation is that people have stepped up, and there's a team of people that have taken care of various things. One person takes family members to the store shopping, and other people in the congregation have brought food early on, and then that wasn't needed after a while. And then people in the community have also participated. So Celia Garcia Perez, who lives across the alley from the church, she has been the kind of informal caseworker for the family. She has provided her shower, laundry facilities for them, because we don't have a shower on the church campus. And so they've really become friends with Celia, and she's become an advocate for them. Richard Anderson has been very involved with family, especially I think Daniel, getting him to ESL classes, etc. And so they're in the process of finding permanent housing. They stayed at a Motel 6, I think, for about maybe not even a month, about a month or so before they came to us. And so World Relief has been working with them to get Social Security. I think they mostly all have Social Security. It's the family of 4. The parents are in their 40s, and 2 adult children, a son and a daughter. And so it's a challenge living in a small space. We have one whole building that is for them. Our Esperanza building, which is a cafe on one side and meeting room, classroom on the other side. There are 2 bathrooms in the cafe, and there are kitchen facilities, sort of. And so they have those kinds of things. But people have donated bicycles. So Thayer, the dad, and Daniel have a bicycle. And people in the community also have done some things like a drum circle. So David Rogers has led a drum circle in the community to welcome the Jamuls to our community and also to ask for some financial support. And people from the church have also offered financial support to the family. And so right now we're just they want to get, of course, they're tired of living, all together. They in these 2 rooms. The parents stay in the larger room, and the daughter is in the larger room with a screen, a partition, so she has her own space. The son stays over in the cafe side of the building and has a partition for his own space. But of course, they're tired of this kind of life. And I think that Daniel, the son, Richard, you probably know better than I do. He applied at In-N-Out Burger for a job. So he has a Social Security, getting a job. And so that's what's going on. So it's been a very good experience for our church, especially because we haven't been in person on campus very much. And so we have the space available. And so it's worked out really well to be able to have that whole building for them for their exclusive use. We had all of our apprehensions to begin with. The council asked a lot of questions. They were concerned about various things, insurance issues. What are the responsibilities of World Relief, for example? What support will they provide? World Relief, as like a lot of agencies, I think International Rescue Committee too, they're overwhelmed. They're just absolutely overwhelmed with cases. And so case managers it's hard to do all the things that you've got to do. So we're realizing in our own church and the wider community that the community really does have to be a part of this, of helping and supporting, because the agencies themselves just can't do it all. And that was one of the fears, I guess, of our church. Will World Relief be able to do nearly as much as we think that we hope that they would do? Well, they are limited, but World Relief has been great, and they're appreciative of everything in the community. This family is Syrian, so their language is Arabic, and so that's kind of unique. That and Imam Ahmed has been really helpful for the family. I reached out to him to see if he knew someone who spoke Arabic who could work with the family, and he did. And he is currently now looking for housing, looking within his community for housing for the family. So I really appreciate his help. That's it. Any questions?
In the interest of time, because usually we have a brief presentation and lots of dialogue, I want to just put out to the group the things that I heard and welcome anyone's comment on them. A need for legal assistance, obviously a need for housing, which we've been talking about for the last couple months, a need for connections with Homeland Security and or following up through the Congressman's office, a need for people to have a place to connect with others that have the same language and culture, and a need for language support. So there's at least 5 or 6 specific needs that we're hearing being expressed. Rather than discuss how that makes us feel, which might be our usual approach, I'd love to open it up for a few minutes for people to say, what do we do with these asks? How do we, does anyone have ideas of how to provide any of these things?
Can I comment on the Jamul family? I did successfully get an application for Daniel at In-N-Out Burger, but he was rejected. And I don't know why, but I went through and now he's applied for the McDonald's on Prescott. And so it just brings up an idea that if any of you know of jobs that he might be able to become involved with, then yeah, you could help that way.
Other thoughts, other reactions?
I have a thought, Shalom. I'm in Florida right now, but I remember at the church called Carpenter's House on the west side, and the Carpenter's House has classrooms in the back of the facility, in the back of their sanctuary. And I can reach out to Pastor Jonathan, who is now senior pastor there. And I know that another organization used that space for teaching. So maybe that's an option for a location for the ESL courses.
Thank you. I mean, I think we're in a situation that the organizations that provide this kind of support are overwhelmed. And so it's on us as a larger community to start filling some of these gaps. I see that Andrew has something in the chat. They're hoping to host a family in mid-March. And Richard, your hand is up. And Lori, go ahead.
Yes, I think there's another immediate need that Tom Hampson has told me about. Many of you know him from Church World Service, but he knows of a lone one single person, 19-year-old woman who needs a room. And I was thinking, my gosh, it seems like with all these congregations, we should be able to come up with some, excuse me to say it this way, woman whose husband has died, who really needs a roommate maybe to help increase her security. I have a friend that was three days on the floor back east before she was discovered from her stroke. And there are reasons why people might take her in, but so far they haven't had any luck to have that person.
Richard, I think there was a possibility. I think that Celia knew someone who was teaching ESL at MJC who was maybe going to talk to her and the family right now hosting her. So I think there's been, I haven't touched base with Tom, but I will to see.
Good. Hope there will be others.
Lori.
So one of the things that I heard, or it sounded like there was a need, that both Syed and the two women were expressing was kind of like the cultural piece of, support, not only with, connecting with other people, but also understanding or kind of coming up to speed about the culture here. And, how that culture can be bridged, so that I suspect that many of us don't know the culture of Afghanistan or all these other countries that refugees are coming from. And, some of the things that they specifically are familiar with or need that are very different here in the U.S. And so having some kind of support in that realm, that it sounds like, all of the other organizations are swamped, so they can't do that kind of work, but maybe that there's some need for that piece of not just English language support, but also cultural support. How to navigate, or even, the issue, Shalom, you brought up about, there can be implicit bias or even, explicit bias that they're encountering, perhaps, applying for a job that somebody doesn't understand the culture and, has a negative view or doesn't, trust a particular person. And there might be some way of supporting that. I don't know, but that's kind of what I heard as a need. And I just wanted to name that because it can be really easy to focus on like very tangible needs like housing or English language skills. But these other needs are also, I think, really important for supporting these refugees.
Lori, can I concur with that? Perhaps in a slightly different direction. I do not remember where I got the single page, but it was a page of 20 items that outlined this is Vietnamese culture, this is American culture, and because we had so many Southeast Asian refugees come to West Modesto, and then the three churches that were part of our church, that one page helped me immensely as an American know how to at least begin to navigate a little bit into the Southeast Asian culture. And if something like that could be created here in Modesto, so that to help us as U.S. citizens be able to, understand and appreciate and navigate the Afghan and Middle East culture. Anyway, it was just that one page thing was incredibly helpful to me, and I would love to see something like it for more recent refugees as well.
Other thoughts, other ideas, other offers?
I want to tag on to what Wayne was saying. I do recall seeing a book, or maybe there are several books online about kind of like cultural awareness, but it kind of did that kind of thing, Wayne, that you're talking about, like what the different cultures, how they differ in terms of even greeting people, or like, for example, in the US, we're very easygoing about touching parts of bodies that we don't think about, that in other cultures may not be actually okay, and we forget to ask for consent. So I'm wondering if maybe we could find some books, and maybe as a community we could perhaps help to fund purchasing some books or something that could be shared in the community, something like that might be helpful.
Other ideas, people willing to organize something, thoughts of what we do with these requests? I know it's a lot to hold.
This is Jim Applegate. One of the things that Ruth Lumen and World Relief are working on is doing a monthly coffee time for the refugees who are coming. So a lot of them are lonely, like we heard. And so we're trying to put that together. So Ruth Lumen is a fantastic resource. She teaches English as second language out at the East Campus of MJC, and is a great person to provide ideas like that. And then Lori, I love your idea about books and so forth. World Relief actually has a document. It's a really short document that we've used as a church to help us, with some of those interaction skills, especially women to women, men to men, and the touching thing that you're talking about, which is, it's honestly, it's not very confusing, but it is awkward if you don't understand it. And so that's been very helpful to us. And it was just a short one-page document that World Relief had that was fantastic. And I also, just one last thing, would love to say just a welcome to Saeed, and to say, very glad you are here. And then also to the other guest as well on our time today. I was just so thankful that you are in our city.
I think that sentiment is shared by, I'd like to think, all of us. Richard, go ahead. Your hand is up.
Has our group, MLinC, been addressing this with Imam Kayalo? Because I know he's really busy with the refugees, but the Ruth Lumen idea of the coffee sounds perfect. And maybe he has that kind of program going on at the at his congregation already.
I spoke to Imam Ahmed about 6 weeks ago, and he was incredibly overwhelmed with providing not only the leadership to his community, which is growing, but trying to provide as much support as he can to individual refugee families. He had some specific asks that he had at that point around food and places to gather, and I made some initial offers, including that we have space in our building. And then didn't hear back from him, and I imagine he's just simply overwhelmed with the task. If anyone has things that they could offer, I think reaching out to him directly would be a good idea. His mailbox tends to be overflowing, and right now I literally could not leave a voicemail message because his box was full. So I'm not really sure how to provide the support that clearly he is trying to provide for others. I think that's indicative of the challenge that we're facing, that all of the formal and informal organizations that do this work are tapped, which is why I'm asking us to be thoughtful about these asks. How do we communicate this to our communities? If we think about all the people just involved in our circles, we must know people that have leads in terms of jobs, immigration, legal support, etc.
There are a number of things that are happening down in Turlock. I do know that in the last 3 months, IRC has received 400 refugees, and we are expecting, IRC and World Relief are expecting another 450 in the next several, because they're closing down some of the bases where people have been housed. Mm-hmm. And so there's an added urgency that comes along. One of the models that World Relief has used and IRC is starting to use is to find 4 families or couples or 5 that will make a commitment to one family, who's coming in, or one, a single or whatever, because it is overwhelming. As you come in to learn the things. I've had the privilege of being in Afghanistan, and I loved the country. And yet I know coming into another place can be a lot of challenge. So for our guests who are from Afghanistan and other countries, I see you as a gift from God to our country. Each of you comes with gifts. You come with wonderful understanding, and I think we are enriched by your presence with us. I know that down here and in some other places, there have been groups where they try to get, some women have been trying to get women together. There have been some churches where we have had a special day where people can come together. One of the changes that I've seen happening recently, for some time when we first were having refugees come from Afghanistan, particularly, a lot of people would come to the gatherings, but then now you have more and more Afghan community here, so they will more quickly go to the Afghan community gatherings than to come to the other ones. So we need help, like from Saeed and from the Nurzai family, to understand how we can be of help rather than to say, oh, we can help. You are the experts in knowing what you need. And so we need to learn from you as well.
We need to take a few moments to discuss our next month's gathering, but a couple important points. First of all, the woman that Tom Hampson is looking for housing for has been housed. So that's a small but noticeable success of how this network works. Secondly, Lori put something in the chat that's extremely important. If someone even had a few minutes to begin to create a Google Doc of resources, we've heard a couple churches offer space. Is there someone who themselves or their congregation staff could take on a small task of being a clearinghouse of information? That would be really helpful, I think, to keep this front and center. Thirdly, I want to make sure, because we've three different people have said it. Lamar, can you please translate our welcome to our guests, not only on this Zoom, but here in our community, and the idea that their presence here enriches our community.
میگن که بسیار خوش آمدین به کمیونیتی عزیز به مدرسه انطلاق اینو و دیگه دیگه خوش هستین و چی برای از اونا بسیار یک چیز. They are thankful for all the community, all the help, all the churches, especially Deborah, and they are comfortable and happy here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.